All right, our view count numbers are down in the dirt. So what did I decide to do? Our least popular type of video, the book review. Go. All right, first up, we have The Maya Temple by Dorothy Daniels. It's put out by Warner Paperback Library in 1972, and the cover art is by Jack Thurston. Dorothy Daniels was a very prolific U.S. author of nurse, romance, and gothic novels. She was born in 1907 and presumably died in 2001. I don't know what's up with the presumably. That's how they have it listed on the Bowling Green website, which has all of her original papers, so you'd figure they would know when she died. I don't know. She was married to pulp author Norman Daniels. Before she started writing herself, she would help Norman by editing and typing. Seeing how it was done, she gave it a shot herself and started getting her stories published. She had success with nurse romance novels, but as that faded in popularity, she ventured into the new and exciting gothic genre and blew up. With her success, the script was flipped and she was now the household head writer, and Norman would help her with editing and typing. She was one of the giants of the 50s through the 70s gothic romance explosion. All right, the basic premise. Archaeologist Gay Kian travels to the Layhew jungles of Chiapas, Mexico to find her missing archaeologist father. There she meets her dad's boss, his rival, his secret girlfriend, and a cast of other characters that may or may not have had something to do with dad's disappearance. There's going to be a lot of mispronunciation in this review. So yeah, a gothic mystery in the jungles of Mexico with Mayan sacrificial temples and a lake god named Shaq Mall? Yes, please. Dorothy Daniels delivers an interesting mystery with swift pacing, vivid characters, exotic setting, dreadful ambiance, folklore, and archaeological accuracy. Or at least she's good enough at making it up to make it sound good to me. Gay is a strong female lead. Be mature, people. Her name is Gay. Gay is a strong female lead. She's brave, but she's not a fool. Sure, sometimes she needs a little help, but don't we all? She is an archaeologist, so she knows some things about things, but this part of the world was her father's interest, so we do get lots of exposition of the locals explaining to her the legends of the area. There is a lake outside of the village. In the middle of that lake is an island, and on the island is an ancient Mayan temple constructed of stone with a sacrificial altar at the top. In days of old, the Layhew tribe would sacrifice people to the lake god Shaq Mall. All the Layhew people avoid the island, and even though he was warned not to go over there, typical whitey, Gay's father is crawling all over this thing. This story has a pulpy, weird menace vibe to it, which I think maybe was inspired by Norman's writing in the pulps. When she was editing and typing that stuff up, she just soaked it in, and when it came time to write this awesome Mayan historical gothic romance, she just threw some of that in there. The natives say that Shaq Mall has disposed of her father for intrusion into the forbidden. At times the mystery creeps into the seemingly supernatural, and of course we have the human suspects constantly guiding Gay toward one path or another, some shadier than others, some a little too friendly. What we have here is a nice selection of usual suspects. You got the five possible killers, the 5 possible kidnappers, and you have the cool legend of Shaq Mall. Maybe it's real, maybe it's supernatural, who knows? Someone keeps leaving Gay little clues that Dad is still alive, like a matchbook from Beirut and his still warm pipe. Is he leaving these things? Why doesn't he make contact? Is it a trap? Everything that happens in this book is mysterious. One night at a dinner party at Don Ricardo's house, she is drugged. She makes it home, but wakes up chained to the sacrificial altar. She screams at a diver from Mexico City who Don Ricardo has hired to search the lake for her father, hears her screams, and rescues her. She thinks he's hot, but he was pretty convenient that this handsome stranger just showed up at the right time to save her life. There's lots of stuff like this to where you don't know who's helping and who's hindering. Paranoia vibes galore. This thing is on the gothic romance trope track and it's making all the stops. Mysterious handsome stranger, red herrings, And one of the best parts, while in Mexico City, she gets drugged again, but this time with psychedelic mushrooms. And there is a whole chapter of like this Hunter S. Thompson-esque manic trip where crazy shit happens. Like the bed tries to eat her and her shoes are bigger than she is. It's hilariously over the top. I was dying laughing. And I would guess that Dorothy Daniels has never actually eaten mushrooms herself, but probably read like a sensational article about it in Reader's Digest, because it was nothing like really tripping on mushrooms, which made it just even more funny. So this is a classic mystery with a clear-cut cast of characters, shade, and motive. I love the exotic setting backdrop, the isolation, stranger in a strange land, the Mayan history. I didn't know who the baddies were until the final reveal. This thing is so much fun. It is enjoyable and simple. The bad guys go to prison, good guys get love and marriage. The end. What kind of thumbs up? All I ever do is thumbs up around here anymore, but I don't know. Let's go. We're climbing up the Mayan temple, sacrificial altar, and all right, up next we got Hunger, William R. Dantz. I don't know who did this cover. It's a wraparound. It's obviously a Photoshop of this little tiny scuba guy and this gigantic shark. This is put out by Tor Books in 1992. And yeah. William R. Dantz is one of the pseudonyms of Rodman Philbrick. He was born in 1951 and is still swimming the waters. He won the Shamus Award for Best Original PI Paperback in 1994 for his book, Brothers and Sinners. He has written many young adult books, most notably Freak the Mighty, which was made into a movie titled simply The Mighty in 1998. There is an adorable video on YouTube where two children interview him about his children's books, and he answers the questions like he's talking to adults, and they look a little like out of it, like they don't understand, but it's still a lot of fun. His answers and insights are really interesting, and I hope that it inspires the little ones, and it's just absolutely adorable. All right, the basic premise. Sea Life Research Institute has been genetically engineering mako sharks to make them smarter and then training them to attack enemy divers and protect underwater missile silos for the government. The sharks escape their lagoon into the open ocean. A couple who run a diving tour business make it their mission to put an end to these sharks. This is a 348-page book about killer sharks, and by page 7, they've already escaped their lagoon. Not a bad start. Unfortunately, it doesn't go right into the bloodshed, but eases us into the water with a little character building and backstory. Our heroes are Sally and Tom. They are a married couple who have a boat named Wild Child. And a charter business of taking landlubbers out to scuba dive around the reefs of the Florida Keys. Tom is an amateur writer of reef life. Sally is an amateur marine biologist who basically inherits two dolphins that were once owned by the dastardly Sea Life Research Institute. The dolphins are named Lewis and Clark. Cute, lame, I'm not sure. They were obviously abused and have issues, but Sally is working on it. Our antagonist is the diabolically determined Dr. Speak. He's thin and tall with a wispy ponytail, and I hate him already. It's a great description for someone to hate. He doesn't care about anything but getting his precious sharks back in the lagoon and keeping his cushy government contract. And getting into the pants of his young female assistant. He's creepy. He's a creepy, bad dude. Both her and another employee do have a half-conscious, though. They know that it's not exactly cool what they're doing, but they do draw the line in the sand at one point. There's also the wet brain alcoholic biogenetics engineer who thinks that everything they're doing is wrong, but he's messed up his life so bad with drinking that there isn't any other place for him to go. These sharks are makos, even though I'm pretty sure that that's a great white there on the cover. They are also not the size of a football field. There are 6 of them, and they are all connected together. They kind of reminded me of the Borg from Star Trek Next Generation. If one feels pain, they all do. There is a reason. It's not pointlessly added in there, but it's a spoiler, so I'm going to leave it out. The sharks do have thoughts also, and they logically solve problems and ponder the world around them. So the kills, unfortunately, are few and far between. There's lots of descriptions of basic functions, lots of padding, which is paradigm of this era of horror. So we are going to cut them some slack here because it's just, that was the style. I will say there is one part where a character keeps dragging their feet to show Sally and Tom this picture that this diver took of these sharks. And Sally legit says, "Come on already!" That's how I kind of felt through a lot of this. The sharks kill some divers, some fishermen, a hammerhead. There is an awesome scene where this shark straight jumps out of the water over this boat and like eats this fisherman's head off, flies back over the boat. And it was great. This is what I'm here for. You know, when the attacks happen, they are good. It just needed a whole lot more of them. As a side, one of the fun things, one diver is so scared that his anus contracts to the size of a pinpoint. I need more stuff like that in my shark books. There is some Jaws stuff, but I mean, what are you gonna do? It's a book about killer sharks on the coast. There is no way that the movie Deep Blue Sea was not inspired by this book. Many similarities. So how was it? It was okay. It isn't okay. It had its moments. I feel like if they had trimmed the fat a little bit, it could have been really fun. Sometimes it takes itself too seriously. Sometimes, you know, in a good way, like they have responsible real world shark facts, like most sharks don't eat people and the ocean needs them, so don't go out and start killing sharks. At the same time, it's a shark book, man. You got to schlock it up. It's got to be crazy, you know? I will say that the showcase showdown, the climax at the end, was not what I was expecting, and I was pleasantly surprised by that. Speaking of responsible shark facts, I dug one up for you, in case you were thinking about going out and killing Mako sharks after this video. Here's a Mako shark fact. There have only been 10 attacks on humans between 1980 and 2024 by a Mako shark. 10 in 44 years. 10 in 44 years. The oceans need our sharks. Don't kill them. William R. Dantz knows what's up. What's his real name? Shit. Rodman Philbrick knows what's up. Thank you, Rodman. Before we thumbs up, shout out to Bad Taste Books for sending me this book. It was a lot of fun, my man. Thank you, Brian. Also, this book is available for free on archive.org. If you want to read it, go to archive.org, look up The Hunger, William R. Dantz, and it's there. Flips through, it's like real photos of the pages. It's kind of cool. I never actually looked at that site before. For books. That's where I listen to the radio programs, though. Anyway, we'll kind of thumb up. Shark fin. All right, next up, we got One Man's Treasure, Terrance Layhew. This is self-published from 2024. Cover art by Victor Maristani. Stani. Sorry. Terrance Layhew is a fellow YouTube personality who hosts a show called Suit Up, wherein he interviews guests from the world of the written word to talk books, writing, and everything that inspires them, all while dressed to impress. To be fair though, I think Terrance dresses like that every day. I follow him on Instagram and he's always a dapper young man. He has published 3 books so far, 2 romance novels, Reason and Romance and Prose and Procrastination, and his 3rd book, this newest one, this here adventure novel, One Man's Treasure. All right, the basic premise. 2 brothers acquire a treasure map dating back to 1671 in a poker game. They venture off to the Caribbean to determine if this treasure really exists. Along the way, they have feisty romantic entanglements with ladies, storms in the jungle that almost drowned them, mental chess games with adversarial peers, sword fights, and a showdown with pirates. Alright, the story is alternately told through the perspectives of both brothers, Sam and Dix, D-I-X. Sam is the younger. He's an engineer. He's shy, reserved, unsure of himself, mechanically inclined, and he's asking the love of his life, Amy, to marry him. He is intrigued with the map and is the spark that gets the adventure going. His older brother, Dix, is a macho shark of an attorney who would have a gambling problem if he didn't win so much, and doesn't always put others' feelings before his own. He's also aces with a rapier. The chapters alternate perspective with each brother's narrative. This is important, pay attention. I'm kind of daft, so I was a little confused until like the fifth chapter. I'm like, what's going on here? And then I was like, oh, it's switching between the brothers. And that is really embarrassing because Terrance actually puts it at the beginning of each chapter, who is talking. Huh? I'm a moron. Sam's fiancée, Amy, joins the brothers on the trip. She is level-headed, intelligent, and often the voice of reason. Also, we have Mallory, a love-scorned romantic victim of Dix's conquests. She's a sympathetic character who has her own moments of strength buried beneath her vulnerability. At times she's a damsel in distress, but I get the impression that Layhew holds women in very high regard, so it's never insulting. And to be fair, at one point, Sam is the damsel in distress, but of his own witless doing. The adventure is a very classic Pulp Fiction style, and at first I questioned the decision to make the two protagonists high-class professionals, because I am not. But then I realized a lot of classic pulp heroes were exactly that. The later era working-class hero that I'm used to came in when men's adventure took the place of adventure pulps. I appreciated that Layhew included the things he obviously loves. James Bond, Indiana Jones, Romancing the Stone. If you watch his channel, you will hear those three things a lot. He likes all things classy. Tuxedos and high-stakes poker games, fencing, a gentleman's sport of violence. We're on yachts, we're in wealthy lawyers, skyscraper office buildings. We have romance, and not just the kind between two human beings. The settings are romantic, the adventure is romantic, the style is romantic. Dig up Alan Ladd and William Bendix and put them in some tuxedos. I have a movie for them to star in. I really enjoyed the excitement build-up scenes on the yacht. Layhew's strongest ability is dialogue, and he keeps it accelerating in quality as the plot moves forward. But he also knows how to add a good fight scene and macho attitude when the story warrants it. At one point, a character's face is described as very punchable, which I really appreciated because I say stuff like that all the time. I'm a Dix. When the pirates make an appearance, we meet Captain Marks, who I would imagine was inspired by the dread Pirate Roberts from The Princess Bride, though he is described as looking like Errol Flynn, a fair and somewhat good-natured Wesley, only in the pirate business for the adventure and the money. He was definitely the right highlight needed for the climax of this book. Overall, this is an adventure novel with moments of light-hearted quips in the middle of the action with a touch of romance. It reminded me of movies like Brendan Fraser's Mummy or The Journey to the Center of the Earth, or maybe even an atmosphere from a 1940s adventure movie. There's nothing crude, and the only modern thing in this book is some of the technology. There's danger and excitement, but it's also fun and has the feel of an exciting vacation misadventure. So what kind of thumb up? We're giving a thumbs up here, Terrance. What kind do you get? Suit up? Is this a suit tie? Am I hitting the microphone? Alright, last up here, The Running Gun by Robert MacLeod. Fawcett Gold Medal, 1969. I don't know who did the cover art. I searched and searched. So if you know, let us know in the comments, because that's pretty damn cool. Robert MacLeod is one of the pseudonyms of Scottish author Bill Knox, who was born in 1928 in Glasgow and died in 1999. Knox was a crime reporter who had his own 15-minute news show called Crime Desk, but mostly he just cranked out crime novels. His longest running series was Thane and Moss, which ran from 1959 to 1999 and had 25 entries. All right, the basic premise here. Working man Joe Dyer leaves his claim to head back to Arizona to meet up with his business partner. On the way, he stops at Spanish Wells, New Mexico for the night. It's the town's 50th anniversary, and one of the events is a beard growing contest. Joe gets attacked by two drunk cowboys because he is without beard. He fights back and gets kicked out of town. He comes upon a dwindling ranch and gets invited to stay for the night by Mexican ranch hand Santos. It turns out the two drunk cowboys live there, though. In the middle of the night, there is a shot. One of them is dead. Joe's the main suspect, and he hits the road on the run from the law. So the obvious question you're probably thinking is, which came first, this running gun or Marty Robbins' running gun? Marty Robbins' running gun came out in 1959. This, as I said, came out in 1969. Couldn't remember. All right, the character of Joe Dyer. I really loved Joe's temperament in this. He's a serious sort of guy, but he does have a bit of a temper, which I appreciate. He's honest, but he's also aware of the world he's living in. So he does what he has to survive. Like at first he stays right there and is willing to talk to the sheriff. While doing so, one of the remaining drunk cowboy of the duo, he takes a shot at Joe and he's forced to shoot back. From there he sees the game is fixed and the sheriff might be shady himself. His only course of action is to find Santos, who has run off to Mexico, so he can clear his name with the higher-ups. This is a great adventure mystery novel with an Old West setting. It's incredibly exciting as Joe tracks Santos to El Paso, Chihuahua, Ciudad, and into the barren wild desert. There are historical accuracies that guide the plot, including run-ins with Pancho Villa's army. On a train headed south into Mexico, they are overtaken by the militia, who executes a slaughter of the foreign passengers. Joe, of course, survives, or it would be a really short book, and is now accompanied by a fresh widow by the name of Ruth. Ruth was heading down to her family's mine that she had previously had to abandon because of Pancho Villa. Joe is still chasing down Santos, so they are both headed the same way. A romance slowly blooms between the two as they survive obstacle after obstacle. This thing cruises, and whether they are fighting off bandits, surviving inhospitable desert terrain, mentally piecing together with the initial murder mystery, hunting down Santos, giving Mexican history lessons, or getting friendly, it's all engaging, well thought out, and written wonderfully. By page 50, I couldn't believe how much had already happened, and it wasn't clunky, forced, or awkward like my reviews. Both main characters, Joe and Ruth, are real folks with imperfections that you can sympathize and empathize with. The Ruth character has this great way of zooming out and seeing the bigger picture, whereas Joe sees what's right in front of him. It makes for an interesting dynamic in their conversations. This book is political, but not one-sided with an infallible character. Valid points are stated, and then something will happen to take it into a gray area. Ruth is an American who's basically run out of Mexico, but gives speeches on how she understands the plight of the people. She gives a wonderful speech on the history of Mexico and what led to Pancho Villa and the people who followed him. The author definitely had an affinity for Mexico. None of the Mexican characters are cartoonish or offensive. Even though this is totally a Western, I feel like if you enjoy mysteries, historical fiction, adventure, or romance, you would love this. At times it felt like Amazon Queen or Romancing the Stone, again, but without the arguing and substitute the jungle for Untamed Mexico. I don't know anything about history of Mexico or Pancho Villa, so this was interesting to me. I felt like I learned something, and it was just incredibly entertaining. It was really fun. I feel like I might have described it in a kind of trudge kind of way, where like you're like, oh, I'm gonna learn this stuff and there's romance and blah blah blah, but no, it was like straight up exciting. As the two people travel across the deserts of Mexico, it gets a thumb up. How many thumbs up? What kind of thumb up? What is this, running gun? We can't do a gun. We're gonna get traveling through Mexico, getting in adventures. Hi guys, having romance. That sucks. That's all I got.